Shortcake does not always have to be strawberry. Orange blueberry shortcake with hazelnut biscuit is really good too. To make blueberry compote, scale 200 grams blueberries and 50 grams of cane sugar together in a small mixing bowl. Add the juice of a small lemon and mix to combine. Set the bowl aside for about an hour to let the berries macerate and create a syrup. Add the berries and syrup to a small saucepan and simmer for 3 minutes. Pour into a small jar to cool. Stored in the refrigerator, blueberry compote will be at its best for several days. A fruit curd is similar to an egg-thickened custard, but with the juice of fruit instead of cream. The curd is cooked on top of the stove in a double boiler, so heat up a small pot of water and pick a small mixing bowl that will be big enough to fit over the opening. The most flavor comes from the zest, so a good tool to use is a kitchen rasp. They can cause painful cuts and care is needed when using one. Do not use more pressure than needed and go slow. To make orange curd, add 50 grams of freshly squeezed orange juice, 50 grams of cane sugar, and the outside zest of an orange to the mixing bowl. Add a whole egg and place the bowl on top of the boiling water to create a double boiler. Whisk the egg mixture for about 5 minutes. When the curd has thickened, pass the curd through a fine mesh sieve and into a small mason jar to remove the zest and make the curd silky smooth. This is how to make hazelnut shortcake biscuits. Roast 50 grams of shelled hazelnuts. This will make the oils in the nuts come to the surface. Rub the nuts together in a towel to help remove the skins and add the nuts to a small food processor to grind into flour. Add the ground hazelnuts to a mixing bowl and add 150 grams of Stoneground cake flour, 5 grams of baking powder, a pinch of salt, and 30 grams of cane sugar, and mix them together. Scale 60 grams of cold butter and cut it into small pieces. Scale 80 grams of high-fat cream and set the jar aside. Add the butter to the flour mixture and cut the butter into the flour by rubbing the mixture between your fingers. This can also be done with a pastry cutter or a fork, but I prefer to use my hands. Keep crumbling the mixture until the consistency is of a coarse meal. Add cream just to combine. I like to use a bowl scraper. On a lightly dusted cutting board, scrape the shaggy dough onto the work surface and bring the dough together, kneading gently. Cake flour does not have very much gluten, so the dough will be crumbly, similar to the texture of a shortbread cookie but not as sweet. Dust the rolling pin with a little flour and roll the dough to a thickness of about 15 millimeters or about a half an inch thick. If you have a set of cutters, pick a shape you like or cut out freehand with a knife. Place the biscuits on a parchment-lined bake sheet and re-roll the dough until all the dough is used and the biscuits are shaped. Paint a very thin layer of heavy cream on top, careful not to wash the sides of the biscuits because that would interfere with the biscuits rising, and sprinkle with a little sugar. Bake in a 350 Fahrenheit oven for 25 minutes. When the biscuits are nicely browned and cooked through, transfer them to a wire rack to cool. To segment an orange, cut the top and bottom off so the orange lies flat on your cutting board. Following the contours of the orange, cut the peel away from the fruit in 2-inch strips. Hold the fruit over a bowl and cut away the orange segments from the pith. Squeeze the remaining juice from the pith and store the segments in the juice until ready to eat. When you whip up Chantilly whipped cream, put a folded towel under the mixing bowl to help stabilize the bowl as you whip in the air. Add a few tablespoons of cream to the bowl and sprinkle the cream with a little vanilla powdered sugar. Powdered sugar gets absorbed into the cream faster, leaving less of a chance of a sugar grit texture. The vanilla is most likely the most popular flavor of Chantilly cream, but Chantilly cream simply means sweetened cream, so any flavor of powdered sugar will work. Whisk the cream for a few minutes until thick. but when whipping cream it is important not to over whip the cream because the cream will separate and turn into butter. Refrigerate the Chantilly whipped cream until ready to use. After the whipped cream is refrigerated, and if the whipped cream starts to deflate, simply whisk the cream a little longer. This is a traditional shortcake recipe that includes a biscuit filled with curd, compote, and cream. Place a small dollop of Chantilly cream into the center of the bowl and cut the hazelnut biscuit in half. Place the bottom of the biscuit on top of the whipped cream to hold it in place. Spread a generous amount of orange curd on each side of the biscuit. The shortcake biscuit breaks apart and gets absorbed into the filling easily, so don't worry if the biscuit breaks apart a little bit. Add a few spoonfuls of blueberry compote over top of the bottom layer and add a generous dollop of whipped cream. Top with the other half of the sweet biscuit and dust the top with vanilla powdered sugar. I like to use a small sieve to help dust the sugar evenly. Arrange the orange segments around the outside of the shortcake and add a little extra juice on top to melt into the blueberry compote and create an orange blueberry syrup. I have a mint plant growing in my yard, and the smell of freshly picked peppermint stimulates my appetite, so I add a sprig of mint to the orange blueberry shortcake as an appropriate garnish. The orange segments add an acidic and refreshing contrast of flavor and appearance. The hazelnut biscuit has a crumbly texture that breaks apart easily into the filling and is easy to eat. Lots of flavors and textures that work so well together.